she said. I don't see why we need joint accounts. So I agreed and sent her itemized invoices for everything. Turns out, equality gets expensive when it's real. I, 35M, had been with Tara, 33F, for 3 years when this happened. We weren't married, but we lived together, shared an apartment, and, I thought, shared a life. We met at a friend's wedding. She was funny, sharp, and confident in that way that makes you feel like you're in the presence of someone who's already figured life out. I was the quieter one, steady job, introverted, more about calm than chaos. And for a while, it worked beautifully. At first, everything was balanced. We split bills, took turns cooking, traded chores. It wasn't romantic in a cinematic way, but it was fair. Then, little by little, the fair started sliding into flexible. When she was between jobs, I covered the rent for 3 months. When her car needed repairs, I paid for it. Just until next paycheck. When vacations came up, I handled flights and hotels because you're better at organizing. None of that bothered me at the time. I wasn't keeping score. That's the thing about quiet people. We don't mind giving until someone starts pretending it's entitled. By year 3, Tara had a great job again, better than mine, actually. She worked in marketing and had started consulting on the side. Money wasn't tight anymore. But when I gently brought up combining finances, not everything, just a shared household account, she froze. We were paying rent, utilities, subscriptions, groceries, all through my accounts. I'd track everything on a spreadsheet and she'd Venmo me later, which sometimes turned into next month. So I said one night, while we were going over bills, hey, maybe we should open a joint account for household stuff. It'll make things cleaner. She didn't even look up from her phone. Why? I don't see why we need joint accounts. We're not married. I nodded slowly. You're right. We're not. And that was it. No argument, no sarcasm. Just an agreement, on her terms. But something clicked in me that night. Maybe it was the tone. Maybe it was the casual way she said, we're not married, as if that excused the imbalance. So I decided to match her logic. If we weren't married, then we weren't a unit. If everything should be separate, then let's make it perfectly separate. The next month, I redid all my budgeting. Every single expense, rent, Wi-Fi, streaming, groceries, water, electricity, parking, I split right down the middle. Then I sent her a simple email. Subject, monthly breakdown. Hey Tara, since we're keeping finances separate, I've calculated your half of the household costs for March. Here's the total and a breakdown attached. You can transfer to my account or pay the utilities directly, whichever you prefer. It wasn't passive-aggressive. It was professional, just factual. She didn't reply for 2 days. Then she came home, eyebrows raised, holding her phone. What's this email? It's the monthly cost split. You're seriously sending me invoices now? Well, you said we shouldn't mix money. So I'm respecting that. She scoffed. That's ridiculous, Aaron. It's logical, Tara. Then I did something I'll admit was slightly calculated, but not out of spite. I changed the utility accounts into her name. Gas, water, electricity, all hers. She made more money, after all. And since she didn't want to combine finances, she could handle her share directly. The next month, she opened the bill. Her eyes widened. Why is the electric bill so high? Welcome to living here, I said calmly. That's been the average for months. You just didn't notice because I was managing it. She stared at me like she didn't know who I was. You're being petty. No, I said. I'm being equal. The funny thing? A week later, she started coming home earlier, cooking dinner again, making little comments like, it's crazy how expensive everything is when you see it all together. I just nodded. Yeah, it adds up. 2 weeks after that, she said it, half joking, half hoping. Maybe we should just do a joint account for bills after all. It'd make things simpler. I smiled genuinely. Makes sense, I said. Let's talk about it. But we never did. Because by then, I'd already realized I didn't want to share accounts, or a life, with someone who only values fairness when it benefits them. It wasn't dramatic. No big breakup fight, no cheating reveal. Just clarity. I moved out 3 months later. She cried, said she didn't see this coming. I told her I didn't either, until I stopped subsidizing the illusion of partnership. You can tell a lot about someone by how they react when you stop paying for the parts of their comfort they stop noticing. That it's been about 8 months since I moved out of the apartment Tara and I shared. No big blow-up, no screaming match. Just me, a U-Haul, and the quiet realization that the person I'd been living with wasn't really my partner, just a roommate with emotional benefits. People think breakups always happen in a moment, a fight, a betrayal, a single explosive event. But the truth is, sometimes they happen spreadsheet by spreadsheet, bill by bill. Sometimes love just dissolves under the weight of math. The first few months after I left were awkwardly peaceful. A few stray texts from her. Hey, do you know when the internet bill renews? You took the coffee grinder, didn't you? It's weird not having you around. I kept my replies short, polite. Eventually, the messages stopped. Then, a few months later, she called out of nowhere. Aaron, can we talk? Her voice was tight, but not angry. I said sure. We met at a small cafe halfway between our old apartment and my new place. She looked different, not in a dramatic way, just quieter, less polished, more human. After a few pleasantries, she took a deep breath. I've been thinking a lot, she started. About us. About everything. I nodded, letting her talk. When I said I didn't want joint accounts, I wasn't trying to be selfish. I just didn't want to feel trapped. My mom used to depend on my dad for everything, and when he left, she had nothing. I didn't want to end up like that. It was the most honest thing she'd said to me in a year. That makes sense, I said. But the difference is, I wasn't trying to control you. I was trying to build something with you. And you can't build together if every brick comes with a receipt. She looked down at her hands. I know, she said softly. I didn't realize how much you did until I started doing it all myself. She told me the apartment had gotten too expensive. She was thinking of moving in with a coworker to split costs. Apparently, she'd tried dating a little, but no one felt as steady. Then she smiled a little, testing the waters. You know, I've been saving more lately, paying down my debt. Maybe we just needed time apart to figure things out. I smiled back, kindly, not cruelly. That's great, Tara. I'm glad you're doing well. I mean, maybe we could start over? Different this time. Equal. I stirred my coffee slowly. You mean, now that the balance sheet's even? She winced, not because I said it harshly, but because it was true. There was a time when that offer would have tempted me, when I would have mistaken remorse for growth. But sitting there, across from her, I realized something simple. She didn't miss me. She missed the feeling of being safe, without having to contribute to it. I'm not angry, I told her. I just don't think we're trying to build the same kind of life. She nodded slowly. I know, she said. It's just, I thought you'd always be there. That was the problem, I said. We finished our coffee in silence. When we stood to leave, she looked at me and said quietly, You really did mean it when you said separate means separate. I did, I said. And I finally learned it applies to more than just money. It's been 3 more months since that meeting. She's moved out of the old apartment. I heard through mutual friends she's doing okay. Smaller place. New job, probably a little humbled. I don't feel satisfaction or revenge, just a kind of quiet balance. Because what started as her refusing to share a bank account ended up teaching me something I never expected. When you stop covering someone else's share, financially, emotionally, mentally, you finally see the real size of their contribution. And sometimes, that reality is smaller than you thought. Now, my bills are mine, my peace is mine, and my energy isn't spent managing someone else's comfort. I'm not bitter. I just keep my balance sheet clean, in every sense. Update 1. It's been just over a year since Tara and I split. A full year of separate accounts, separate lives, and, honestly, separate peace. If you've read the first part of my post, you probably expected some dramatic twist, her begging to come back, a revenge story, something cinematic. But the truth is, life rarely ends like a movie. Sometimes it just levels out. And that's exactly what happened. After that last coffee conversation, we didn't speak again. No texts. No birthday messages. No, I miss you. Just silence. The clean kind, not the painful kind. I deleted our old shared drive, took my name off the last of the apartment utilities, and finally stopped checking her Instagram out of habit. It was almost like hitting clear history on an old browser, not to erase, but to stop reopening old tabs. The first few months after that were weirdly peaceful. I'd come home, cook dinner for one, pay my bills on time, and actually see where my money went. It's funny how easy adult life becomes when you're not subsidizing someone else's comfort disguised as love. I started saving more, traveled a little, took a class on investing, something I'd been putting off for years. It's not glamorous, but the feeling of full control over your life is addictive in a quiet way. Then, 6 months ago, something unexpected happened. I met Nina, 31F, a systems analyst who, ironically, found my old post about separate means separate on Reddit before realizing I was the author. We laughed about it later when I admitted it really was me. She said, "You didn't sound bitter. Just done. That's rare. We've been dating ever since. No drama, no emotional bookkeeping, no unspoken debts. We split everything easily, not because we have to, but because we both want to. She insists on paying her share. I insist on occasionally treating her anyway. We meet in the middle. That's what balance feels like. Not exact math, but equal intention." A few weeks ago, I got a message from Tara. Just one line. "I finally understand what you meant." No context, no follow-up. I didn't reply, not out of coldness, but because there was nothing left to add. Sometimes, understanding is the only apology you'll ever get. And that's enough. Looking back, I realized that what ended our relationship wasn't money. It was math. Not the numbers themselves, but the imbalance they revealed. Because when someone says, "I don't see why we need to share," what they really mean is, "I don't see us as one team." That realization hurt at first, but now it's freeing. Because love that can't survive transparency isn't love. It's dependency dressed up as connection. Today, my accounts are still separate, but my life isn't lonely. I share dinners, laughter, plans, and peace. And I've learned that the real joint account isn't the one with money in it. It's the one where both people deposit effort, honesty, and respect without needing a spreadsheet to track it. Tara once said she didn't want to feel trapped. Now I understand that freedom isn't about keeping things separate. It's about choosing someone without fear of losing yourself in the process. And the person I chose first this time was me. Final update. It's been about 18 months now since everything ended. A year and a half since Tara looked me in the eye and said, "We're not married. Why mix money?" And I realized what she was really saying was, "I don't want accountability." Back then, I thought separation would hurt forever. Now, I barely remember what her laugh sounded like. And that's not sadness, that's peace. The biggest surprise about moving on wasn't how fast it happened. It was how quietly it did. No breakdowns, no rebound obsession. Just one day, I noticed the house didn't echo anymore. Not because someone came back, but because I'd finally filled it with my own life again. Since my last update, things have been steady. Work's been good. Nina and I are still together. Steady, kind, simple. We both like things neat, planned, transparent. It sounds boring until you realize that boring is just another word for peaceful. We have a joint account now, not because she asked for one, but because it made sense. We built it slowly, naturally, after realizing we were both contributing to the same future without keeping score. The funny thing? I never once felt trapped. I felt trusted. That's the difference between separate for safety and together by choice. A few weeks ago, I ran into Tara by accident. At the post office of all places. She looked fine. Not glowing, not broken, just ordinary. We talked for a minute. She said she was renting a smaller place now, saving up, being more intentional. Then she said something that stuck with me. "You were right, you know, about everything." I thought independence meant keeping control. Turns out it just meant keeping distance. There was no bitterness in her voice, just a quiet resignation that comes when you finally stop rewriting the past. I smiled and said, "It's okay. We both learned." And I meant it. Because the truth is, if it hadn't gone that way, I wouldn't have learned how to be with someone the right way now. That night, I came home, poured myself a drink, and opened my budgeting app, the same one that used to give me anxiety. I stared at the neat rows of transactions, the clean balance, and the automatic transfers to savings. It hit me then. Every dollar, every line, every quiet choice. They were all reflections of the same lesson. You can't build a shared life with someone who's afraid to share risk. Love and trust cost something. And when you refuse to invest, you lose interest, literally and emotionally. Tara once told me she didn't want to mix money. I get it now. She didn't want to mix lives. And maybe that's the whole point. Some people see a relationship as addition, two people building something bigger than themselves. Others see it as subtraction, giving up what they think they'll lose. But balance? Balance is multiplication. You both put in, and what you get back grows quietly, compound over time. So here I am, 18 months later. Bills paid. Heart steady. Life clean. No debt, financial or emotional. And for the first time in years, I don't feel owed anything.